There it is. Boom.
Hi, this is Ray Duggan, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you doing this with me. I know it was a little challenging for us this morning getting our technology in order, but you know what? This is good. We're combat dudes, man. We work off of wooden desks that have chairs tucked in them and toilet paper might be by the square. Who cares, right? Like we're alive. No one's trying to shoot at us today.
Yeah, if
And
things
we're good
go
to go.
wrong a little bit, I don't know what I'd do.
That's right. You wouldn't have to swear anymore.
I'm trying to curb that.
It wasn't working 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Hey, no, but thanks for coming on. And I love talking about this. We're not great at talking about how incredible the counterintelligence job is. We have the word special in it, but nobody cares about that, right? So, I guess when I ask you just briefly, what is counterintelligence? What's your answer?
Oh, that's a big question, man. Uh,
I know.
I mean, the aspects of counterintelligence are to protect the nation and protect DOD, and like in our aspect, because counterintelligence is in the FBI and other federal agencies, but uh, it's to defend basic missions, protection, collection of foreign asset information, and see who is trying to collect on us and trying to
Okay.
steal our information, whether it be federal information or military information for the DOD.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I'm a
guess. I mean that.
counterintelligence. Yeah, that's good. I'm a big on counterintelligence being an offensive weapon as well. I want to be on the playing field. I want them to know who I am, and I want them to know and recognize that we're tussling. That is my approach. I know that is not the common approach, but do you see counterintelligence as both? Should it be defense? What should we be? Where are we on the field, man? Like, what kind of a? If we were going to use football, can we use football as a term for this? Where is the CI person supposed to be?
I guess you could use football, but uh, there's, I don't know, three basic missions of counterintelligence: uh, collections,
Hmm.
defensive counterintelligence, and offensive
Hmm.
counterintelligence. Um, you know, we do investigations for security clearances, for subversion and espionage directed against the military. And I'm just saying that when you say counterintelligence as a military aspect. So we do investigations, we do uh, defensive in support of the tactical warfighter and whoever we're doing the mission with, which has changed dramatically in the last year or so, but uh, not being part of FORCECOM anymore, the Forces Command. We still do investigations, collection operations, and support operations like
Right.
uh, linguists, polygraph, TSCM. We
Yeah.
do surveillance activities, and
It's a
then we
lot of shit,
support.
right? Yeah. So are we offense or can we be offense like Pete says?
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah. All
You
right,
have
good.
to have an offensive mission. You can't just be defensive because then you're just acting on different things that are coming up. Somebody reports, "Hey, I saw somebody taking pictures where they shouldn't be taking pictures, and they look like a
Yeah.
foreign national, like
Yeah.
outside of a camp in Bosnia or Kosovo or something."
Sure. 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 We had that happening in Iraq. We went to the
Yeah,
commander and this is one of the conundrums. Hey man, they're dropping threatening letters on people's doorsteps with bullets in them. And we had a piece of red zone, right? Red zone, everybody is Iraq, and then the camps are America, right? And so we had two camps clustered side by side with a strip of road going through that was not clear, was red zone. And they were surveilling and killing Iraqis, particular people, anybody who worked with us, which us being the Americans, especially folks that they thought were working with us. So we said, "Hey, we want to deal with this threat," and they're like, we don't know about that. How does that happen? How does that work? But because they hadn't collected on it, because they hadn't read the reports, they didn't know that there was an active thing going on of surveillance, right?
mhm.
And it was hard, ultimately impossible to get them to authorize any kind of capacity to defend the camp itself. So sometimes It's not even offense or defense. Sometimes it's like we got to be our own engineer and we got to improve our position on the camp.
Right. I mean, you do threat assessments. That's still part of the counterintelligence aspect. It's a little different from tactical to strategic, but you're out there. You do a threat assessment. You say this is what's going on. These are people that are out there, and how are we going to collect on them? Well, the defensive side is what you were just talking about, where somebody reports something or somebody sees something, and then you react. The offensive is you have IRs,
Mhm.
intelligence requirements, and then
Yeah.
you have priority intelligence requirements from either a commander or a national level. So you try to go out and collect information to satisfy those intelligence requirements, so that you can go and say, uh, "Here, Commander, here's information on what's going on the battlefield, uh, on the supply routes, on what's going on there." Or on a national level, strategically, if you're working with the Army, yeah, you go out and you collect information to satisfy those information requirements, and then you write up your information intelligence reports from there, and it gets analyzed at a hawk, uh, centralized operations cell. Um, they take all the information in, whether it's human and SIGINT and everything, and then they take it, your offensive information, and they put it with other information to verify what's going on. And if they see something, whether it's on the SIGINT side, signals intelligence, uh, or the human intelligence side, which we were on, or the force protection side, uh, they're going to ask more questions, and they're going to say, okay, yeah, I like this information that you're sending up. It verifies something else that we're seeing, but we need more
Mm.
information. And then you get tasking messages to go out, and we need this information. So you go out and you collect that information.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a team, you know, you have a sector or an area that you're working in. If you're
Right.
a field office, it's the same thing, but it's on a excuse me, it's
Yeah.
on a non-battlefield environment. Say you
Right.
were in, I was in Wiesbaden, Germany, and we covered Frankfurt, Wiesbaden, all the way down to Darmstadt when another area took over. It's a pretty
Yeah.
large area, and you have to look into that area, what's in there, what's going on, and defensively react to the different things, and then offensively collect where you need to collect information.
Yeah. Love it. And as you're talking about one thin line. We could branch off and do the track next to it and be different. And so let's do a little bit of that. Pete would say, so when I talk about counterintelligence, my version of it, because that's really the first qualifier, my version of what I saw and what I did and what I learned. I had 4 jobs, right? And I did a lot of tactical stuff. So my job was to help the commander win more and lose less, help the enemy lose more and win less. And if my ability to get to the battlefield was productive because I helped us lose less, which doesn't
Mhm.
mean in combat necessarily, because we have this bigger strategic mission in Afghanistan and Iraq where, hey, we're trying to stand up and establish this government and get it running on its own 2 feet. And we're trying to see where we're at with that. The commander's desperate to know, how am I doing? Right? Because all the information he gets is like, today we conducted the inoculation operation and we inoculated 1,000 people. And therefore we have made the government work. And meanwhile, I'm like, hey, listen, man, that ain't it. That
That
ain't
ain't
it.
it.
No, that right. And so that doesn't seem like that, but understand the enemy is going to go out and use medicine to whoop our ass. And if the commander can't see that, if no one's reporting on that, then man, oh man, that's my job. So I got to be out front. I got to be off the camp. I got to be. Now I'm not saying I got to be a maverick and a cowboy. Sometimes you'd have to, but
Right, right,
I'm going to work within the patrol cycle. I'm going to get on patrols and I'm going to see things that no one else is seeing because I'm not looking for how great my team is doing. I'm looking at what's actually happening in town. We have all these initiatives from State Department that come down. Are they working? No.
right,
Right.
right.
And so that this doesn't seem like spying stuff, but we are. I'm. off the camp talking to locals, and they are not using the farming program or whatever that thing is, man, you better believe the boss wants to know that.
Right. A lot of it's changed. In the say 90s and 2000s up to 2022,
Mhm.
uh, depending on where you were at and who you were attached to, who you were working for, if you were doing a tactical mission, you fell under force com.
Right.
Forces command. There's major commands in the military. There's the army, and then major commands, major subordinate commands, and then divisions, and further on down, and wherever you fell. Task forces. If you worked for a task force in Iraq and Afghanistan, um, that's all changed because uh, Title 10. Uh, I'm trying to do this so that people can understand what we're talking about. Last time I
Yeah.
got a lot of, hey, I didn't know what you were saying because of all the acronyms and stuff. So I'm
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
understand it. In everything changed because now we don't fall. We, meaning counterintelligence, fall under one single command now. Um, that one single command is ACIC, the Army Counterintelligence Command.
Okay.
It's a subsidiary of a major command, INSCOM, um, Intelligence and Security Command. It used to be that if I was in a force com unit, a forces command unit, another MACOM, which controls all forces, whether they're uh, intelligence or an 11 Bravo boots on the ground guy or special operations. Well, that's another MACOM. But
Yeah.
either way, um, you would report in different chains and different you'd have
Yeah.
different missions to support that commander that you were with. Now everybody falls under uh, ACIC, the Army Counterintelligence Command,
Yep.
and no matter if you're uh, supporting a commander in a tactical environment or you're strategic, whether you're doing a defensive mission or an offensive mission, or investigations or collections or support activities like TSCM, technical
Right.
surveillance and countermeasures, putting in bugs, uh,
Yeah.
polygraph, doing vulnerability assessments. It all comes, your mission comes from ACIC. You
Right.
might be on we were talking about it yesterday. Um, you might be on attached to a unit, not assigned to a unit like before. You'll be attached to a unit, such as the 25th Infantry Division. Before, I used to be part of that, and then I'd
Mhm.
have to report to my brigade, do what they wanted to do, the ops center, and it's in support of the 25th Infantry Division. Now you're in a support mechanism that ACIC is giving you the mission. Yes, you still go out and you do what is needed for that tactical commander, but all reporting and everything goes straight to one area, and you have one KICA. A KICA is a counterintelligence, like
They coordinate things. They make sure that
right.
we
It's a
don't step on each
coordination
other.
authority.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
counterintelligence coordination authority now is a one-star general in charge of ACIC.
All right.
Uh, where before you had all these sub-control offices and you were reporting depending on where you were to different people, and you had 10 different people, an operations cell, your command, the commander jumping down your throat. If they want something now, yeah, they can come directly to you, but there's a different channel that they use now because you're in a support element. And if they want you to do something, they go through ACIC and request that support. Now, that being said, uh,
Yes.
your funding for that, it used to be, say, I wanted to go to a school and I was attached to somewhere, Fort Bragg, okay?
Right. Yeah.
And I wanted to go to the surveillance school. Okay. I had to ask for funds from Fort Bragg,
Right.
from the forces command that I was in, get some of their training funds and say, hey, can I go to this school, please? And they're like, I don't even know what you do, and
Yeah.
I'm going to start
Who are
funding
you?
you. And now we got 15 guys who are, I'm spending 80, $100,000, $200,000 for a week for you to go out and do a boondoggle because that's what they think it is. It's not like that anymore. Your funding comes directly out of ACIC now. So if
Yeah.
there's schools that you need to go on, TDY, temporary duty, your assignments or wherever you're going,
Right.
um, you need to just go through ACIC, request that information, request that school, request that TDY, and to support the mission and go. You don't have to
Yeah.
ask through the command anymore.
That I mean,
So
and that part of it is great, right? But I wonder if we'll be able to be as relevant to a command. If we're TD wide, you can't do our job in 3 months. You can't do our job in 6 months. You need to be there. And
right,
really you need to rotate back. So like let's say you, me, and another dude rotated every 6 months. Man, it would be a mess trying to run ops in support of an infantry battalion, no matter who owned our the bank account. So pay us.
right, and,
So
and that's a
how
problem
yeah.
with counterintelligence too. That especially on the tactical side,
Mhm.
you never know who you're going to get. So you
Yeah.
might have, Pete goes out there in a command and he's gung ho and you're knowledgeable uh, and you support the command fantastic and they love you.
Yeah.
And
They love
then,
me.
Bob Berger comes in and is
Oh,
like,
Bob.
he's a slug. He doesn't
Yeah.
want to work. All he wants to do is
Terrified.
stay on the
Terrified to
base
go off
camp.
the camp. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't,
Yeah.
they just want to stay on the base camp. And the commander's like, where's my counterintelligence guy?
Where's Pete?
Right. And now all of a sudden, if you got to rotate back in 6 months later, say you're on a six
Mhm.
month in, 6 month out, and
Yeah.
you rotate back in and you think, hey, I left that commander and he loves me and he's going to love him some Pete when I come back. And you come back and they hate you because, what the hell are you doing for me? You left,
Mhm.
we got some slug guy and we didn't get any intelligence for 6 months. So you
Yeah.
never know who you're going to get.
All
Uh,
right. Yeah.
all the,
Yeah.
huh?
No, I'm saying yes, right? So this is one of the challenges in our field is I don't know who's good. I don't. And I'm a counterintelligence guy. So I've learned to just accept that we've all had incredible careers. I've had to force myself to assume that everybody's great until they prove otherwise because everybody is so knowledgeable. We are so plug and play. I mean, Ray, the next time someone tells a counterintelligence agent, here are your orders. What am I supposed to do when I get? I mean, where'd that guy go? And then all of a
Right,
sudden you're there and you're like,
right,
fuck me, what am I supposed to do? Who's gonna have my back, right? Who's my oh, they're all my client, right? So that happens all the time to us, and we have no idea. There's no pin, there's no badge. And if the guy, as you just said, if the guy ever went to any schools, it's all hard-earned experience, right? So how do
right.
you
But
know? Yeah.
it's up to the individual.
Okay.
I learned 3 words as soon as I went to the schoolhouse in Fort
Okay.
Huachuca.
Let me hear it.
Knowledge is power.
Yes.
Okay, and I never heard that before in the context that I just thought it was another saying that the military had. Okay, knowledge is power. You need to know stuff. No, you need to take time on your own and figure out what laws are. Figure out how
Mhm.
not to go to jail. Okay,
Yeah.
you got operational laws and then you got punitive laws
Oh
that
boy.
you can go to jail for. If you spend money
Mhm.
wrong, you're going to jail. If you collect the information on somebody that is, not supposed to be collected on, a US citizen or whatever, and you put
Right.
that up in a report, it's a punitive action that could happen to you.
Yeah.
They could either
Yeah.
take your money or put you in jail. So you got to understand, how laws work and
Mm.
people, just regular people on the street that are out there don't understand how laws work, let alone if you got sensitive information, classified information, handling instructions. Where's that information at? Where's it come from? And people are, oh, as you go up in rank, you're going to learn all this stuff. Well, you need to take it upon yourself as a good agent to go out there and learn that information. So, if you have to know what governs counterintelligence, and it's uh, U.S. code.
Yeah.
And
Right.
a lot of people throw that around. Oh, it falls under Title 18 United States Code.
Yeah.
Uh, what's United States Code? What
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you need to know
You have
what's
to have a command
governing
of it.
you,
Yep.
what
Yeah.
the laws are. See,
Yeah.
I hear it all the time about, oh, the Constitution says this, the Constitution says that. Well, the Constitution is just a framework. Okay. The Constitution, when it was first written, was 7 articles, and that's it. It would say, okay, here's how the government's going to work. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until 10 years after the Constitution was written that it said, okay, we need to take care of the people. They need to have, the next 10 articles need to be about the people on what they're going to do.
Right.
And then when the Congress met, they started writing all these laws based on
Mm.
those 10 articles and what can be happening and what's going to go on, funding. We started doing missions overseas, and we needed security. We needed funding for different things. So they started writing laws. And not all the way up until 1924, 1924, from 1791 to 1924, they used to stack all those laws. They make a law and they put it inside of a, container, and that's where you could go look it up inside the National Archive if you needed to know the law. There was
Yeah.
no direct area to do that. So the real thing, the Constitution being the outside of the bun on a sandwich. In 1924, a bunch of law scholars got together and they said, you know what, we need to put all these laws that are coming around in our country and put them in one central location. And
All
we
right.
need to know how to get to them. So they came together and said, okay, we're going to write a thing called the United States Code. All right. And this can't be ever, as long as your arm, as long, and keep going on different subjects. So they made up subjects. There's 54 categories of U.S. code. So
Mm-hmm.
U.S. code is whenever a law is passed, a federal law, because there's different types of law. You have to know that. So there's federal law, there's state law, there's local law, there's military law, there's government law, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all governed by different things. But it's all in U.S. code. So everybody likes to say, I want to plead the fifth, or I want, uh, I have free speech because the Constitution says so. It's not
Mm-hmm.
because the Constitution says so. It's because in, uh, your titles, that's what they're called. There's 54 titles within the United States Code. They govern everything, every law. And every 6 years, um, they take those laws that have been passed in the last 6 years and they add them to the U.S. Code. So if one law outdates another law that was already there, they take that law out every 6 years and they replace it. And in the meantime, they do a thing called a publication. And those publications are done every 2 years. They're added to the cycle for the U.S. Code. Now, if you don't know this and you don't know what governs you, counterintelligence is governed basically by Title 10 of the United States Code, section or chapter 21, under chapter 21, section 7577. And under that, depending on what it is, say like intelligence funds, it's subsection 455 under 757, chapter
Yeah.
21 of Title 10 of the United States Code. Now, you have to know that.
Yeah.
You have to know that United States Code changed. So, the United States Code changed with the publication that was passed in 2004
Okay.
um, under the Defense Authorization Act. Biden actually signed it. And
Wait,
for
I
two
want to
thousand,
jump in
go
because
ahead.
I understand like the legal thing that you're saying is powerful, right? But I don't want to get locked into that minutia. I want to get back into how do you know when another agent is good? How does a commander know? What does the agent have to say to that commander, right? So
Oh,
that they get their attention. I'm going to tell you what I say. I go in and I go, I got a lot of experience. I've been to almost every province in Iraq. I've been out in the field a lot. I'm here to help you. I don't need anything more than access to your patrols. And here's what I'm going to do. And I'll say, and here are the 4 lines of your mission statement, because it's always that, right? I know this stuff. When I tell them what I know, they're like, "Yep, you're right." Right? And it's close with and destroy the enemy, protect the force, enable the enablers, and teach and train the local government agencies that they're there to mentor. Right? That's the mission. And I can help them with all of those line items, but I'm going to tell them I'm not going to focus on the first one. Close with and destroy. That'll come. I'm going to send it over to your other intel guys. I'm going to help you with all the other stuff where you're not getting help on if it's working or not. And then
right.
here's what's going to happen in 3 months, or 3 weeks, you're going to see and get what I do, and you're going to be cool with it. And in 3 months, you're going to look at me and you're going to say, Pete, you're our number one force multiplier. We couldn't have gotten here this fast without you. Anytime you want to talk to me, come sit on my couch, and I won't have to wait in line. I won't have to ask permission. I'll be your number one advisor. And they look at me and they're like, holy shit. But then, Ray, I get to work and I start delivering, and that reliable, it takes time, but that's about as fast as I learned how to do it, and about as fast as I could say it. Obviously, I would say it a little differently when I'm in front of the person, but that let them know that was my bona fides. I have done this shit. These are your peers have told me to say audacity, audacity, audacity. So I'm telling you right now, here's the future. And I'm going to go on the same patrols and bring you stuff that nobody else is bringing you, and you're going to understand how your machine is working. And
Right, but
they,
that circles around back to what you were talking about before. You never know who you're going to get.
yeah,
Our community's very small. When I
yeah,
was in and when you were in, there was probably about 1,600 counterintelligence agents doing
yeah,
tactical missions,
tiny.
strategic missions, whatever. In the whole army, 1,600 people. And out of those, there was probably about, I don't know, I'd say 500 that were worth their salt. You know, not even half were worth
Okay,
their
that's
salt.
fair. Yeah,
And a lot of it's not their fault. They don't get the training. But
yeah,
everybody knows everybody basically. You get word of
yeah.
mouth. You do a mission, you do it with somebody, your reporting goes up. The operations guy says, "Hey, that's a good guy. Uh, this is a good guy. Yeah, they know what
Mhm,
they're doing. I'm not worried about them." Or this guy can
mhm.
be trained. I don't think he's had this type of experience before, but you have the ability to be trained, uh, so
Yeah,
you can do
yeah,
that. Can you talk? Can you
yeah,
interact with people? Uh,
yeah.
this
Well,
this
there's
right
different
now, what we're
kinds.
doing is off the cuff. You
Right, yeah,
know,
yeah,
you have to be able to sit down and answer a question, follow it up with something, who, what,
yeah,
when, where, why, and how, and
right,
get all the intelligence. And if you can be the best gatherer of information that there is, or the best operations guy that there is, but if you don't know how to report it and you don't know how to put it into words, if you can't write,
yeah.
you don't know how to structure a sentence, your intelligence isn't
Which
any good.
you would think that that would be an automatic, but you and I both sat down people. I'm like, slow down. Let's write this. And you're breaking down sentences, subject, verb, agreement, all that kind of thing. It
Right.
happens all of the time because we're communicating in a way that has to be read by people that we're never going to see, never know. Our audience could be the president. And so you're writing in a stack, a vertical stack that's very hard. And people take your words and then laser out what they like and put it in. And I've seen my words used in a report, and I'm like, that wasn't what I was saying. That's not what my entire report says. So even then, I'm trying to think, how do I communicate clearly, right? All the time. Let me ask you this. I would say that there are several kinds of counterintelligence agents, not TSCM and MDCI and all that. I mean, like there's operators like me who went out and did things. There's guys who were operations guys, and they were great at that. Like if you had me sit at a desk and say, "Hey, plan how these teams need to go out. Let's figure out how to answer these big questions." Man, I'd suck at that. I'd hate it. I'd act like an asshole, and no
Yeah.
one would want me in the office. That's not my sweet spot. I know that now. But I struggled at battalion because I hated being there, and they wasted my time, like you know, wire brushing fucking stoves, and like carry the safe over there and all that. I'll do all that work, but there was no development, right? I was wasting my time. And my peers are all wearing suits and have living on the economy, like I stood out like
Right.
a sore thumb. But let me say one more thing. And then there's guys who love the puzzle and they want the reports and they need to go work in a SCO or a KICA or a Hawk or a Hack or a Hark, all of those things. And
You're
they're
you're doing
terrified to
it.
go
Hold
out.
on a second. Hold
Yeah.
on. You got
Yeah.
to say what that is. I understand what you're
I
talking
know.
about.
I was gonna, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm saying those things to be ridiculous. So they're an analyst, everybody, and they work in offices, and they're called things like the Hawk, whatever it is, right? So, Hawk, that's just analysis office, right? These guys are the puzzlers. They do the link analysis, and they love that, but they're terrified to go off the camp. They would never, and even if they did, they don't know how to drink. They're terrified to eat the food.
Right.
They can't control their faces, and they're like, "Oh," they're
Yeah.
like, "Dude, calm get the fuck
Can
out
you
of here. Go
function
do something
drunk?
else."
Can
Yeah,
you go out there and drink?
yeah,
Because the bad guys, a lot of the bad guys, a lot of the good guys, the first thing they want to do is hand you something to drink. Their Slivovica, their
yeah,
rakia, their booze that they've
yeah,
made, and they want you to try it. And 3 shots in, and you haven't even asked a question yet. You're just
yeah,
establishing rapport. And
yeah,
6 shots in, you have to be able to listen, possibly translate that information, and then be able to retain it, and then go back and report it, and write it out. And
yeah,
it's one of the things that you're talking about. And you got good
yeah,
guys that are just like you said, they're good at operations. Uh, I enjoyed operations. I was an operational guy to go out, put me on the ground. I'll
yeah,
go do what I need to do. The
yeah,
strategic side, we eat each other. We eat each other. Everybody's trying to get there. I want your job. I want what you're
mhm,
doing because, like you said, you're scrubbing, uh, your
stoves,
equipment down because you went
yeah,
to the field and you're spending a week in the field, and you talk to me the next week. Hey, what you doing, Pete? Yeah, I'm working. I had to go to, Patia, Croatia. I was staying in this plush hotel. It's really nice. They gave me a Mercedes Benz to cruise around in.
yeah.
And you hear that, and you're like,
I'm
what
a
the hell am
fucking
I
wooden
doing?
metal
I just spent a
detail.
week in the field, you know, and
Not
that's
even in
just
the field, man. I'm doing maintenance on other people's shit.
right. But along with the counterintelligence job, you have to learn, and that
Ugh.
takes us back to what I was talking about the first time we talked
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
There's 128 jobs in
yeah,
counterintelligence,
uh,
along with I got to know how to fix a Humvee. I got to know how to
mhm,
set up a tent. I need to know how to, uh, turn the heat on in a stove. How to clean a
mhm,
stove. What it takes to run a stove. The stupid stuff that's
yeah,
just 11 Bravo stuff along with your job.
yeah,
But hopefully
yeah.
that's going to change,
Well, we'll
as
see.
we move
We'll
on,
see.
having the ACIC being in charge of us.
Yeah. Let me
You
back
don't
up
have
to
a
the drinking.
commander, like I'm not
Yeah,
going to say his name, like we had in
mhm.
the, 165th when that,
I'll say his name, Caniano and
yeah,
Vivon. Neither one of those guys. Vivon, these guys didn't understand how to develop CI agents. That's the thing that I've realized. And I'm not talking about interrogators. I'm not talking about the other guys that were there. Just it was hard to get people to understand how to identify and train us so that we could be ready for anything. Let me back up to the drinking thing though. A couple months ago I had on Stan McChrystal, and I have no problem with Stan McChrystal, but we were talking, and I said, Stan, if we sat there in your meeting talking to whatever person you were doing, and that person offered me whiskey, I'd take that shot right in front of your face because that's my job.
right,
And Stan is like, well, and he wasn't saying no, but he's like, how do you know that he's not testing you? Just like, yeah, see, now you're that's my job. Your job is to look at me and be like, man, Pete's a badass. What's he doing? And you talk to me later on because there's design and everything we're doing. And by the way, and I'll say this, then I'm going to shut up. In that interaction between me and his partner, and I'm drinking the whiskey he offers me, and this has really happened to me live. Like during Ramadan, a colonel's like, "Hey, you want to drink some whiskey? I got to hear my dad." Fuck yeah, dude. Let's go. And when I did that, I'm always asking myself, who's running who? And I got to be run a little bit. They got to believe in me that they can control me a little bit. And it's a tug and pull. And sometimes you might realize, oh fuck, I'm being run right now. But if
right,
you aren't close to it, you're nowhere near it. You
right,
got that tight. And that makes guys like Stan McChrystal uncomfortable if he's there to witness it. I'm sure he can handle it and he reads a report. But what we do is scary to people because of how to them, like to us, we're in the gray zone. It's probably black sometimes, but to them, they're like, you are out of the black and into the terrifying. You're in a black hole. I can't even understand you. Right. And meanwhile, we're like, This is all legal, you know? And
Right.
so there's that piece right there that I'm always trying to figure out where is it? How do you get that?
Well,
Um,
you
how
got
do
to
you
understand. You got to
yeah,
understand what the mission is and what the laws are and what you can and can't do. You know,
that's the
like I
law.
was
Right.
talking about the U.S. code.
Yeah,
Okay, U.S. code gets pushed down to DoD directives. DoD directives get pushed down to Army regulations. So you got to understand the DoD directives are for the military, the Defense Department, and everything. They're the bun outside the sandwich, and then
yeah,
inside is the meat of the situation, and that's the Army 38110, 38120, whether you're doing
sure.
classified or unclassified,
These are
on
manuals,
what
not
you
just
can and what you
counterintelligence.
can't
Right,
do. Where does
right,
funding come from? What are you allowed to do? Uh, what what assets are out there that you can use? What
right.
can I drink? Am I allowed to wear civilian clothes? Can I go out without a four-man team? Can I go out by myself and work in the tactical environment? Now, that being said, back to ACIC, the Army Counterintelligence Command now.
Yeah,
Uh, it's not governed by your FORSCOM commander. Now, they're going to be pissed that you're leaving whenever you want, but being in a support role and not directly underneath of that FORSCOM commander, you can go to your command in ACIC and say, hey, you, here's the thing, too. There's lawyers. We have lawyers that are 24/7 on call at INSCOM. They work for INSCOM and ACIC. So if you plan a mission, if you're going to do a mission, you go through the lawyers and you say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. What am I legally allowed to do? Uh, if I'm going to collect on this foreign asset that I know is a known foreign asset,
okay.
and he's going to be in a situation that he's going to be in my area. I want TSCM to come in and bug his room. I want him to bug the vehicles that we're going to be moving around in. But here's the problem. There's a U.S. general that's going to be moving around with them. So
Mhm.
what do I legally need to do? Because I'm not telling that U.S. general that we're doing this because he might blow it because they don't know how to act,
Right.
on what we're doing. So you go to
Yes.
that lawyer and you say, here's our mission. Here's what we're doing. And you go and the lawyer will tell you, you need to execute this. You need to execute chapter 6. We were talking about that the
Right.
other day. It
Mhm.
tells you in the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence Information, that gives information to DoD. They put out that yes, you can collect on that individual, but you have these restrictions.
Right.
If you're collecting on this person and that person just happens to be there, you just don't report what they're saying or how they're doing it. It's different things. So the lawyer
Yeah,
is the one who talks to you. Now, being in a
yeah,
tactical environment,
yeah,
if you went to your JAG, they're going to look at you like you got a horn grown out of your head because they have
yeah,
no idea what you're doing. These
yeah.
lawyers are specific to counterintelligence, are specific to what our mission is, and they know
How
the law, everything that we've
right.
talked about.
One
So
of the
they can
challenges
help
we
you.
had. Yeah, no, they can, and you have to be legal, and always you're dealing with that, right? And there's going to be a lawyer in every unit and all that kind of thing. But still, in a tactical unit, man, I'd watch a battalion get the approvals to go do this big maneuver operation. You got Apaches flying, we got Kiowas supporting those guys, we got fast movers tasked above us. Take 3 weeks to do all that shit, you know?
Right.
And and by the time we got there, like, okay, yeah, it's a big operation, all these things happened, but I could do more just going on daily patrols and just fucking outworking those guys. Like, it's a lot. It's so slow. The enemy moves way faster. I recall one time we climbed up this mountain pass, right? And I mean, we're way the fuck up there. It took hours to climb because you got to move as fast as you can and always be combat ready. So guys are, talking young guys, not old guys like me. Young guys had their hands on the knees. These are infantry guys, breathing hard. And we just slowly picked our way up. We got to the ridge of the mountain. As soon as we crushed it, and people can't understand the space in Afghanistan. As soon as we crushed it, roll, 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 dogs start barking. We're not even 5 miles. Like, we're so far away. Like, we're like, and you have to come down this hill. It's a mountain, the other side of it, right? And you see the Taliban spark up their motorcycles and let out. And we couldn't have touched them if we tried. We were so far out of any kind of range for anything. And so just to do that, it's so hard. Like that's how quick the environment is, right? It's instant. And so when and I'm not saying don't be illegal, right? But we don't have time for calling up anybody, any lawyer. Hey, are we allowed to do this or not? Right? Like we've got to operate in that environment. So how do we build dudes that can handle that speed, that have that capacity? How do we identify those guys? We're not even good at the mentoring. I know a lot of CI people have had great mentors. I didn't. I had people that I worked with, and they were great, but I didn't have anybody go, Pete, here's how you manage a career. Like I saw in the infantry, these guys were incredible at that. We don't
Right.
have that.
Right. In the counterintelligence field, well, I was talking about Forces Command and INSCOM,
Yeah.
these major commands. The only command that has counterintelligence in it that doesn't fall under ACIC, the
Yeah.
Army Counterintelligence Corps, is TRADOC, the
Right.
schoolhouse.
Yeah.
The schoolhouse is in Fort Huachuca. It handles most of the classified material, teaching us what we're doing, going out,
Yeah.
training the basics of counterintelligence.
Okay.
Now, what they need to do, and this is funding problems, and this is again, when I was there, my last job in the military was to help rewrite the counterintelligence program for the military.
Sure.
I put it out. I wrote a class on law, on how to act, how to interact, and the questions that you need to ask depending on law. What governs what we
Right.
do, what you need to know. Whether that was implemented or not, I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the
And even
schoolhouse
if
has
it is
changed.
implemented, it's temporary. There's always fighting for access to the horse blanket. Horse blanket's the curriculum, everybody. So there's always access to compress it, make it smaller, wipe that out. Let's take interrogation out. Let's take interviewing out. Let's bring it back in. Hey, where's the surveillance? Right. So it's always moving because there's so many tasks to master.
Right, but there's in the training command especially, they
Yeah.
need to focus more on what's needed. We had put in uh, rules and regulations to be changed at TRADOC and within Forces Command that they
Okay.
can't recruit counterintelligence agents straight off the street. And you're getting these 18, 19-year-old kids that have
Yeah.
had zero experience in life,
Sure.
and you're throwing them in and they're thinking that they're going to be James Bond, this spy guy, and they go to school and they're hyping them up the whole time. But in the schoolhouse, you got people that are assessing, seeing who's good, who's not, where we want to put them, who's going to handle them. This guy's, a dud, so we're going to send him here, we're going to send him there, and your orders come down. You
Yeah.
never know what's going to happen or who's going to happen. But now they've changed it so that officers and E6s, hopefully, it'll stay like that, depending on recruitment and how many people we need in the field, are the ones that they're bringing in. Like when I came in, I was an E5, and I got recruited into counterintelligence. I was already in the military. I had already seen some stuff and done some things in the military, understood what was going on and how regulations and laws work. And I got recruited and I
Yeah.
was brought into counterintelligence. I had to go through a large process to do that. And when I got there, I saw other guys who just, got out of high school and joined the military, and they were in the same class as me. Now there was 12 of us that were separate. We were recruited. These guys were kids,
Yeah.
and knew nothing. They had to learn the Army first and then learn counterintelligence. And then within that counterintelligence, what you're going to do, the aspects of what you're going to do, where you're going to go, who's going to work. And until that person is trained up right and learns right, is under the right person, like you were in Bosnia, you had a supportive warrant officer and a supportive sergeant who was in charge to teach you, hey, you need to do this, we need to do that. And you were smart enough to pick up on what was going on and what you needed to do and how counterintelligence was going to work for you in the
Yeah.
tactical world. Now, you could have easily left that tactical world, and that's all you've ever known. And
Yep.
you could have been thrown right into a strategic, sent to school to learn surveillance, and
Yeah.
brought into FCA, the Foreign Counterintelligence Activity, and been on a surveillance team. And it's just they're focused on that. That's their focus. That's the only thing that they do. They don't do everything else. They
Yeah.
do surveillance. And we have other
Yeah.
people that do nothing but technical surveillance and countermeasures that put in bugs and look for bugs,
Yeah.
or, who's collecting satellite wise,
It's such a
electronic wise,
crapshoot.
electronic surveillance. We have
When you
ComSec
discuss all
people.
this, oh, no, I mean, there's so many options. Let me jump in with this and say, so my next job was going to be Fort Riley, Kansas, in an E4 slot, and they were rotating right back into Bosnia. So I called the branch manager. The branch manager manages kind of like the branch of counterintelligence. So they're trying to put you in the best spot. And their job is to get to fill slots, but also try to help you out with your career. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm already here. Like, can I go do something else? And by the way, I'm promotable. I'm going to be an E5. I don't need to go for an E4 slot. Put me in an E5 slot because I just got to go to this school so I can qualify for that. And so he's like, yeah, sure. I'll send you to Fort Gordon, right? Because then you can deploy a lot. You can continue to work. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, because I'm not going to, I have no bargaining position at this point. But my fiance at the time, she also was intel, or she also was in the Army, and she was in signal. And she got curtailment orders that took her to Huachuca. And so by dumb luck, my next job was Huachuca, and they weren't expecting me. And so I just sat there, and I didn't sit there. I did work, but I worked as the 2 for the 309th, right? And for everybody watching, this is like the intel office, and I'm in charge of all the intel things that happen in this brigade-sized battalion. It's a training battalion. And so an E4 really shouldn't have that job, but I did, and my job was to do my job. So I did that job for a while, but then I got pulled over by a lady named Nancy Richards, counterintelligence agent, Delta Company 165th, and she's like, "Hey, come over here to the source operations course I taught at CIFSO." And so, like a miracle, a guy who had just run sources 6 months later is teaching source operations. But even then, my chief couldn't get his head wrapped around that.
Right.
And he had done stuff in Somalia, so he also was very current. But I had the most current under the current regulation. I had run, and he thought I was there to help with computers, right? And so I'm just illustrating how crazy this all could be. And then as I was getting ready to leave the Army, because the Army didn't act like it wanted me, I was like, should I become a drill sergeant? I'm here. I got Homestead for a while. Should I go to the strategic debriefers course? Because all I got to do is walk over when they have an opening and I can take it whenever I want. Should I go become a warrant? What should I do? And Nancy Richards, she's like, you know what, Pete? You should just get out because the Army and you aren't jiving right now. And if you come back in, you'll know why you're coming back. And I did come back in a different way, but I came back. But here you have someone who wanted to do something else, never was ever going to be considered for FCA. That was never even, no one even told me that could be a thing, right? And so as far as I knew, I had to invent all this myself because we didn't have the Ray Duggans out there outside the military saying, hey kid, you can go to FCA, here's how you do it, right? We never had that tool. And I don't think that's going to happen when we're in this new configuration at all, because we're still us. We're still not great at going, I mean, no one ever told me, hey, you're being evaluated against your peers. I was trying to compete hard against my peers. I was trying to smash them, right? But, and I won every board I sat in. I did all these things, but I got retarded all the time. They didn't know how to manage me. And so I became unmanageable to them. And I know that from a lot of my friends, same experience. They're like, yeah, no one gave a fuck about me. And so I got out. We bleed talent like crazy, Ray.
Yeah, we lose talent. We lose talent so bad. Well, not only lose it, they change, because I'm sitting next to a civilian who's a GS-15 or a GS-14. It's a civilian MICEP, military civilian, who say it was me. I get out of the military as a counterintelligence agent, and the next day go right back to where I was working, making 3 times what I was making as a military guy. Why stay in the military when I can go into MICEP or DOD or be a contractor and make 10 times what I was making? It might be for a short period of time, but they do contracting, and you get pulled in as a contractor. You make the big bucks, and you're looking at a guy who you're working with who's an E4, E5, E6 lieutenant, a warrant officer 1. and these guys are making $50,000-$60,000 a year. That's with all the extra pay and everything.
Yeah.
And you're making $220,000 a year doing the exact same thing. And that person's in charge of you because you fall under the military. Why stay in? And we lose the talent in the military side because of that. They should, and I'll probably get yelled at for this by people that I know.
Let them yell.
But just like when you leave government, you should not be able to work for another organization in the government to influence the government or the same job you were working in for at least a year, maybe 2. So it keeps people from just jumping out of the job and then going. And now you got people like myself who had a lot of schools. If I wasn't working, I was going to a school. And I knew that I needed to do that. I needed to go to read. I needed to learn interrogation techniques. I needed to learn how to pick locks. There's different things. So I had a lot of opportunity and had people who were above me who had knowledge, just like you were saying, who kept me in. And I would have got out, right after the 165th because it put such a shit taste, excuse my language. It put a shit taste in my mouth because being the only counterintelligence unit, fully counterintelligence operational unit with 16 teams in counterintelligence that I was running. And then I come back and I'm in charge of a field office that, and I have a colonel who's telling me while a subversion and espionage case is going on, a NATO significant one, in my office, people from the 650th come over and they're talking to me about it. And my colonel's like, calling me on the phone. I hear these guys are there. Why aren't you doing sergeant's time?
Yeah.
I was like, what? There's a real world mission right now. These people flew in to get this information and talk and, coordinate with this. And he's like, get your ass over there and do sergeant's time. That's what he was worried about. I'm like, why am I in the military? Why am I in?
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of people, how many people do we lose because of RIF, the reduction in force?
Yeah.
They were in the 165th and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. Screw that.
Yeah.
You gotta have the tactical side, but you should have good experience also.
Okay.
And that's up to, like you were saying, the people who manage us in Arlington, Virginia, who decide who's going where and what job they're filling. There's slots. They're called billets. So
it's
who's going to fill that billet?
Well, right. And who's, again, like this doesn't happen in the infantry. Like I know they have things they complain about there, but it is one of the challenges where we're not constantly being developed. Hey, have you been to whatever FLETC yet? No, what's that? Oh shit, we got to get you to FLETC, right? Like that never happened. Right. I was down to go to Ranger school, and they're like, nah, you can't do that. My buddy Brian and we were trying to go to OCS. Man, we couldn't have got bottled up faster. And so this is the challenge in the counterintelligence world is you've got to be able to stand up for yourself, understand the kind of collector you are, and develop into someone who's professional. And I'll tell you right now, like, and okay, you guys can get mad at me if you want to, but if you're a tactical person and you've got 2 deployments and you didn't spend the entire time out of the camp, you don't know shit about tactical collection. No. You just don't at the professional level. It takes
collection in general.
Right. You might know how to do other aspects within that stack, but the guy on the ground, you got no fucking clue, right? Because it takes a long time to earn that black belt. And let me tell you, you don't know enough. If you're waiting for PIRs and you're trying to answer those, man, you're so far behind. You got to get in front of all that stuff. PIRs are written by people in a room who have no idea. They're like, we'd like to know this. We'd like to know that. Yes, of course they want to know who Abu Bad Guy is. You should already know that. You should already be building a network. You should be out there exposed on the field. This is the offensive side of the game. And so that's me on my soapbox talking about this, but I don't see us figuring out how to deal with that and just saying, oh, human will handle it. We are human. Human are us. We're all the same thing.
Right. Depending if you're strategic or tactical, the mission is the mission. Yeah. You're going to go out, You're going to do it. You're going to gather information. You're going to report it. That's the
Yeah.
basics. You go
Yeah.
out, you do an investigation or you do an operation, you gather the information, you put it in a report, and you send it out. Whether you're tactical, strategic, foreign intelligence, no matter what, they're the basics of what you do. And if you can't do that mission, what are you going to do? But
Yeah.
you have to have the training. Like you said,
Yeah.
you didn't have the training on a lot of things until you went to Huachuca. A lot of people think, oh, I got to go to training and doctrine command, and, and that stinks. Well, while
Yeah.
you're there, you can go to the CIFSO course. Uh, you can go to strategic debriefer. You can go
Mhm.
to the TSM course. You can do a lot of things while you're there
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get a lot of training. And then you might be on a MET team that goes out and teaches people. So you're traveling,
Mhm.
you're doing things, you're specializing. While you're teaching, you're learning exactly everything that's supposed to be taught.
Yeah.
So
No, it's a good point. Yeah.
it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go there, of course, because you're not
Yeah.
operating, you're
Yeah.
learning. But I think that
You know,
learning is just as good and just as needed as
yeah.
being operational and not having some rogue guy going out there saying, "Oh, I know what I'm doing." And if you ask them,
Yeah.
you ask somebody, what's the law governing what you do? What gives you the right to collect that information? And the
Sure.
way you're doing it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, it's because the commander said." Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. That's a punitive law. You're using money. You're using intelligence information, and you're not reporting the right stuff.
Okay, I'm going to wrap us up with this. I want you to tell me. You can put your team wherever you want, but they say, Ray, yeah, here's your orders. You're deploying to fill in the blank place, whatever you want. And then that's it. That's your direction. But you get to pick your guys. What kind of guys do you want? Like, you don't need all collectors. You don't need all this. You need someone who's good at liaison, whatever it is. Assemble like I don't know, what do you want to say? A 5-man team, 6-man? And I'm saying man, everybody understand. I'm saying
Right. Man or
soldier.
woman, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right. So, you were going to go do this collection mission in support of X in place X. So, what kind of a team do you need? What kind of people? Because you don't always get like all the guys you want, but in this case, you get to decide the nature of those people.
If I'm looking at it, if I can pull people outside of counterintelligence or people within counterintelligence that
Yeah.
have background like special operations, I'd like to pull a special operations person first.
Okay. Let's
Uh,
stick in CI. Let's stick in CI.
okay,
You need.
counterintelligence guys that have
Yeah.
worked outside of counterintelligence, that have worked with the
Okay.
CIA, that have worked with DIA,
Okay.
uh, or worked with the FBI. I'd take one of those. I
Okay.
would pull a linguist, at least one.
Okay.
People who can speak the language and people who can interrogate and know, like on a force protection team where you have interrogators
Mhm.
and counterintelligence guys working side by side. I'd
Okay.
have two of those guys, two operational, other than myself, two operational counterintelligence guys, one that
Okay.
is proficient in operations and one that's proficient in reporting.
Okay.
Okay, because I need to have the information that we're getting and how to get it and where it's supposed to go. So that's
Okay.
me, two counterintelligence guys that are in the support section, like I was saying, one operational, one intelligence, one person that's worked with SOCOM, Special Operations Commands, and one person that's worked outside that's a linguist of Operations Command, working with FBI, CIA. That would be my 5-man team, and I would be rolling
Nice. How much? What's the standard operational day? Like, how much do you want these guys outside the wire
all the time.
all the
All the
time?
time. Here's my thing: if you're not home, okay, and
Mhm.
that's a whole different subject about when
Sure.
you're deployed, you ain't got anything else to do. If you're not working or eating, you should be out there outside that wire, and you should be
Yeah.
collecting information, getting what you're supposed to do, planning a mission, and going out and executing. You're not
Yeah.
there to lay around and go to the commissary or go to the fun room over there and play pool or whatever they got going on, some
Yeah.
ping
Yeah.
pong.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So if
if
you
you
run
got
a
time
field
for that,
office,
you got time to learn mission or plan mission and go outside that wire and go do your job.
so if
I
you're running a field office, it's empty except for maybe you or the chief or someone sitting there. Is that right?
I can't hear you.
Oh, I was saying if you're running a field office, your office is going to be empty except for you or maybe the chief sitting there. Someone's got to answer the phone, right? So
Right. Right. That's the
everybody else is
operational
out.
guy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So I would have an operational guy on my team that can take in the information that we're gathering and not have to worry about going out and collecting. Now they want to, but like you said, there are people who are savant like people that can take the puzzle and put it all together. I want that guy on the team
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
that when we're taking in information, they can put it all together, put it in a report, and put it out. So I need somebody who knows how to operate in a hostile environment that can teach everybody. And I
Yeah.
need people that take direction and that I can train. That's it.
I love it. I love it. Right. Let's wrap this thing up. What else do you want to say before we get done here? And thanks for coming on the show, man. It's always fun to talk about this stuff.
Oh, I mean, there's a million different things and aspects that we can talk about. And I love being on the show. Um, I've been watching a lot lately and seeing your last guys. That
Yeah.
they're fantastic. You had some really good people on with what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
People don't usually know, and you don't say it, but Pete, he belongs to an organization called Save the Brave.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, if you have any funds and you want to donate to that organization because it's helping our people who are having trouble instead of killing themselves, getting help for that.
Yeah.
So look it up, try to see it.
Save the
Say again?
Save the Brave right down below me now. They put the link up there so everybody can
Right.
see.
He's put the link up. Check it out. If you feel like donating, donate, but at least know about what's going on in the world. And Pete, thank you very much. It's been an honor again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime you want to get together and talk, just give me a call.
I love it. I love it. Everybody, I'll have a show for you later on today. I got to get all the way up north first, though. But Ray, thank you very much. I'll say goodbye to you in a second off, Mike. Everybody else, I'll see you in about 7 hours.
See ya.